Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, folks, it is 2:17 in the AM right now. We are doing a live stream, especially for you. Most of you will be watching this on rewind. So let's get this video started off right. Smash that like button. We're going to set a goal again of 100 likes. Last video, we came up a little short. Half of that goal, we got about 50 likes, last I checked. So let's keep it going. Whenever you're watching this video, hit that like button. Subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. The New York Mets today, they took care of business. They defeated the Atlanta Braves, their nemesis. And this is a day when the Braves were honoring their all-time great. So it was actually a pretty good game for the Mets bats to explode. And how ironic, Nolan McLean. I mean, folks, this kid looks extremely special. We are going to go over specifics. What did he throw tonight? How effective he was, and how special this kid can be. We were on a very it was a short losing streak, a 2-game losing streak. But once again, this kid changes the dynamic, and he changes that, clubhouse atmosphere into a very positive place. So the New York Mets, again, get a gem, a complete gem from Nolan McLean, going 7 innings, and he did it with a pitch mix of throwing 6 different pitches. Again, we're going to go over details very, very shortly about that. I'm going to go over the Mets meter. How are the Mets? What are the Mets right now in Mets land? How are we feeling? The other day we introduced the Mets meter, and the Mets got a grade of a 6. That was after we were on a 3-game winning streak. We were feeling great. But then we went on a 2-game losing streak, losing the series to the Nationals, and a sour taste in the mouth of most Mets fans. So that wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. But again, we start off this series against the Braves very, very good, on a very good foot. Last night's video was harsh, very, very harsh. Challenge guys like Juan Soto to step up. And today, you have to say that a guy like Juan Soto certainly responded, hitting that very nice, majestic homer opposite field in the 7th inning to extend the lead to 7-2 at that time. He also had 3 hits, 4 RBIs, 2 walks. This is the type of game that you want to see from Juan Soto. You want to see more and more of this. This is a complete game that a superstar like Juan Soto should be having much more frequently. Lindor continued to stay hot. He added another 3 hits, a couple very important hits to get us going. Marte had a nice hit, an RBI as well. Vientos, smoked a double. The ball was on the inner part of the plate. It was a very impressive hit. I would say the 2 most impressive hits was the Soto opposite field homer, the double by Vientos. That was a nice piece of hitting. And Brett Baty, I got to go over what Brett Baty is doing. Brett Baty, 6 ABs today, 4 hits, 3 runs. And this was a kid that many Mets fans wanted to trade away at the deadline. I mean, folks, if we traded him away to whatever team and you see this kid break out like this, it could have possibly been PCA 2.0. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be as good or as dynamic, but we are seeing what type of potential Brett Baty can kind of show behind or at the plate. I mean, his bat is looking so electric. Tyrone Taylor today, he added 3 hits. One of them, he fell down, got a hit. So everything seemed to be going the Mets' way. Cedric Mullins, he had a huge triple, lined it off the wall in right field. It was a rope. And even Hayden Senger added 2 big hits, 3 RBIs. So up and down the Mets lineup, the offense was stellar tonight, scoring 2 in the 2nd, 2 in the 3rd, 3 in the 4th, 2 in the 7th, 3 in the 8th. So, I mean, even though Hell's Joke, I'm talking about Ryan Helsley, even though Ryan Helsley would try to blow the game later on, and also Reed Garrett didn't pitch well either. The Mets scored well enough to overcome any shortcomings. All right, folks, again, we're going to go over details. Let me know in the comments, how do you feel about the Mets' direction? How do you feel about where we are right now? Are you positive? Are you not? Again, I feel okay about the offense. In fact, I feel good about the offense. It's still going to heavily depend on pitching consistency. I'd say specifically the starters, but I'm a bit worried about the bullpen. You're seeing this so-called upgraded bullpen with holes. Ryan Helsley supposedly was your number one pick in terms of acquisition in the bullpen, and he's an elite closer, was an elite closer. Is it New York? Is it something that's going on in his arm? Is it with his pitch mix? What is going on? Because he is extremely hittable. One game, he's leaving every single pitch in the middle of the strike zone. His wicked slider isn't having as much movement. The batters aren't chasing as normally as they were in the past. So there is a lot left to be desired with this guy, Ryan Helsley. I'm telling you, I mean, he is a guy you can't really trust. You can't really trust right now, and you got to get him right, folks. You got to get him right. He was brought here to be that bridge to Diaz, that eighth inning dynamic guy. And I still believe that there is something special there because we've seen it in St. Louis. So hopefully the Mets could recapture that. But right now, I mean, it's just looking abysmal from Ryan Helsley. Again, AKA Hell's joke. So we got to figure that out. But again, this game started off. Let's get back to the positive. Nolan McLean, you can't say enough about. So let's get into a little more specifics. Nolan today went 7 innings, allowed 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. But what was key for Nolan was that he had 0 walks, folks. 0 walks. It was a commanding outing from McLean. In his second MLB start, this guy, and you saw it in the postgame show, this guy looks like he belongs. He sounds like he belongs, acts like he belongs. So, I mean, this kid is not going anywhere. So I'm so excited that at least we have one part of the rotation. 20% of the starting rotation looks to be very promising with a guy like Nolan McLean. And he also became the first Mets starter besides David Peterson to go 6+ innings in a game since June 7th. I mean, folks, that is, that's almost 2 months. So that's a little alarming. Actually, very alarming. Very, very alarming. So another thing about McLean is he's got many pitches. Tonight specifically, he used 6 distinct pitches. Very versatile approach. His speed ranged from 78.8 miles per hour to 97.4 miles per hour. The pitch that he struck out Ronald Acuna on, I believe, is the 7th or 8th inning after Ronald hit that homer. I'm sorry, not in the 8th inning. I believe it was the 7th inning. He only went 7. So the pitch was a 97 mile per hour fastball with rise up and in or on Acuna. It was nasty. So this kid got it as high as 97.4 and as low as 78.8. So that is a huge disparity in terms of presenting that to the hitters. Now, in his debut, McLean's sweeper averaged 2,995 RPM and his curveball hit 3,300 RPM. So he has some of the most elite spin rates in all of MLB. I mean, this rookie. So his spin-heavy breaking balls were a stark challenge for hitters. Today, he mentioned that his curveball he didn't feel as good about it, but still, that RPM was still there. So in terms of effectiveness and execution, he had 11 swinging strikes, and that displayed how high his spin rate was on the to the offense or to the opposing batters because it was just missing bats. Again, he avoided walks, which is very rare for rookies. Very rare for rookies. It shows how he was in an attack mode, and he's not afraid to go after these professional hitters, no matter who they are. I like that for another reason. It shows that he's confident in himself, in his stuff, and that, is very, very, very important. He maintained strong command. As mentioned, he threw 94 pitches over 7 innings. And, you talk about stamina, consistency. This kid is proving that just in 2 short outings, he's averaged more than 6 innings pitched per outing. Folks, compare that to the rest. He's already above the rest. And again, still it brings to some minds like, would it been effective bringing this kid up last month, 2 months ago? I mean, McLean said he developed and he got better, but still, this kid is just it looks like he's so elite that even if he wasn't at this level that he's on right now, he still would have been superior to the rest of the rotation. So it's very, very, very promising. Mets manager Carlos Mendoza obviously praised Nolan for his poise, for the fact that he's able to be adaptable. And also, you're pitching in Atlanta, you're pitching in a road environment, and, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal to this kid. Nothing really seems like it's phasing this kid. So extremely impressive. Very, very impressive. Okay. So again, Nolan, great job. Great job. The hitters, we spoke about who had a great game. Hitting wise, great job as well. Joseph, what's going on tonight? Hopefully you enjoyed that win. And again, before I get into some details of the game, let me tell you how I feel the Mets world is. So I introduced the other day the Mets meter, how the Mets doing. Again, I'm into trends, right? How are we trending right now? Are we trending in a good way, bad way? After our 3-game winning streak, I rated our trend as 6 out of 10 on the Mets meter. Then we lost 2 very bad games. One was a close game. One was a blowout to the Nationals. We lost that series. The Mets meter read very low. Today, the Mets meter, I would say you got a 4. You got a 4. After losing that series to the Nationals, after being very, very, that was very disappointing, folks. We did get a very good outing from the bats. We got a good outing from Nolan McLean. But, folks, for us to get over the hump, we need consistency. Consistency. And then I also need to see how this whole rotation is going to pull this off. Senger and Manaea, that's a problem. Even if we get production from McLean, even if we get production from good 4 or 5 innings from Holmes, David Peterson, you still got 2 rotational spots that are very up in the air. And you need those spots to be consistent because you need to put streaks together. You need to gather momentum. So right now, after a Nolan McLean victory, and, a lot of these fans of Nolan McLean, probably we can call them McLeaniacs. I'm pretty sure I'm going to see that pretty soon. But, again, you heap a lot of pressure on this kid. This kid, again, is a stopper. He was a stopper last week. He's a stopper this week. He's the Jacob deGrom right now. And obviously, so much ways to go to get to Jacob deGrom. But that's what Jacob deGrom used to do. He used to turn the tide. All right, get on my back. Let's start a winning streak. Again, Nolan McLean, get on my back. The kid seems tough. He's gritty. He's talented. I love the kid. I'm so happy that we have him in our rotation and that we can build a rotation around a very talented young man. 24 years old. Kid's going to be here for at least 6 years. So, very, very good. You got Brandon Sproat on the way, Jonah Tong on the way. A lot of young, talented pitchers. I went on last night's video. I went through the top 30 Mets prospects. Many of them pitchers. Many of them are having great, successful performances this year in the minors. So the Mets have a plethora of young pitching prospects to go to. And we will see how the next pitching prospect, most likely going to be Brandon Sproat. But, I'm also thinking right now, everybody was wondering, who was it going to be, Brandon Sproat or Nolan McLean? Because obviously there was a rotational spot open. And at this point right now, I can't even believe that there was a debate. I mean, Nolan McLean is showing how elite. I mean, he's showing that, comparing him to Major League Baseball pitchers, that he is, in the top echelon of Major League Baseball pitchers. So, comparing him to Sproat, and maybe Sproat's going to be close to his level, but if Sproat is anywhere close to what McLean is doing, folks, that is freaking scary. That is scary. I mean, you're talking about McLean. He's showing you that he can be a number one or number two. That's what he's showing you. That is his stuff right there. I was listening to the broadcast of Atlanta, and Atlanta's broadcasters raving about him. I read scouting reports from 5 or 6 scouts from other organizations. Every single damn scout from other organizations raving about this kid. And it's the whole package, the poise, the presence. That's very important, because a lot of pitchers have talent. A lot of pitchers have, stuff, but it's just about the whole makeup. And this kid has it. This kid is special. And you even see how this kid influences the rest of that team, the dugout, the offense, everything. I mean, that is just extremely, they say good leaders impact everybody else in a positive way. This kid is impacting a whole team in a positive way. So again, thumbs up. Very, very happy. Brooklyn Johnny, you're right. McLean is a dog. Garrett and Helsley, on the other hand, honestly, right now, those two, Helsley, again, Hell's joke is very disappointing. It's extremely disappointing, especially from a guy, a former closer with elite stuff. And I remember the first game when he came out in Citi Field, he looked freaking nasty, dialing it up to 100 plus miles per hour. The slider was literally diving off the TV screen. But ever since that first performance, he's been so hittable, so damn hittable. So again, everybody's saying, is it New York? Is it mechanics? What is it? Well, you know what? At the end of the day, he was a huge acquisition for David Stern. We needed that 8th inning guy. We needed that bridge to Diaz. So the Mets have to fix this. They have to find a way for this kid to recapture what he was doing in St. Louis, because he's not old. He apparently doesn't have any injuries. He's still able to dial it up to 102, 103, 104. So there has to be something else at play here. Mets got to figure it out, because the bullpen is not looking good. It's not looking good. What do we got right now? We got Diaz, Gregory Soto. I'm having trouble finding guys in the circle of trust. I'm having trouble. Guys like Tyler Rogers was supposed to be in a circle of trust. Guys like Ryan Helsley was supposed to be in the circle of trust. But those guys right now are not trustworthy. So again, we're going to need those guys down the stretch. But then, the Mets, they have their options. A guy like Tyler McGill's coming back. And then you have guys like Brandon Sproat. You have guys like Jonah Tong. If those guys are talented, maybe those guys become reliable, talented options out of the pen. Maybe Tyler McGill, instead of being a starter, maybe he becomes a reliable option out of the pen to piggyback off of a Clay Holmes start, piggyback it off a Sean Manaea start, because if nothing else, our starters have proven to be extremely consistent at not going far into games. So you're going to need those piggyback guys that could throw, a good amount of innings, long relief guys. That's just extremely disappointing, but you're going to have to plan for that. If you're David Stearns and you are Carlos Mendoza, we're going to have to eat up innings. And you see that this offense seems to be very, very, very inspired by good pitching. And juxtapose that too. When the Mets pitching does not get off to a good start, you see the offense usually stall. But in the last 2 or 3 weeks, the offense has been a lot more dynamic. So again, give credit where credit's due to Lindor. Soto, I got on him tremendously yesterday. Good game. Marte, in the the absence of Nimmo, he's been pretty decent as well. Alonso, you're not relying all on Alonso for once. In the absence of Alvarez, Hayden Senger was good. Cedric Mullins is coming on as of late. Brett Baty has been a freaking phenom. So, the Mets lineup has been picking up the slack in a big way. They had 21 hits. 21 hits. This is almost video game stuff. So, McLean's 2-0, 1.46 ERA. Great stuff, folks. Great stuff. Joseph, you're right. Raley, Soto, Diaz, only guys you can trust. Yeah, and Raley, he was a guy, he gave up a couple of runs a couple of days ago. But I'm just like, right now, it's, for me, in my eyes, it's just Soto and Diaz. So that's why, if I'm the Mets, I'm aggressive, bringing up some of these young, talented arms. I want to see what I have. You playing the Dodgers, you're going to be playing an aggressive offense like Milwaukee. You're going to need a bunch of arms. Philly, they got a great offense. You're going to need guys who can get outs. And at the most important thing you need too is these guys who attack. One of the most, even though Nolan McLean, he's got all the talent in the world. He's got the pitch mix. He's got the nasty stuff. But at the end of the day, control. 0 walks in 7 innings. I'd be interested. Has a Mets pitcher done that this entire year? Now, we already know no Mets pitchers other than David Peterson have gotten past 7 innings. So, has David Peterson had a game where he's went 7+ innings with 0 walks? And if he's had at least 1 walk, then this kid's already done something that no other Met pitcher has done this entire year. 7+ innings, or 7 innings at least, with 0 walks. That in itself is damn impressive for a kid in his second major league start. Wow. Okay, so, let's go over some of the game. So the game started off, it didn't start off great. You had Nolan McLean. Honestly, I don't like seeing this. Nolan McLean, first pitch, trips, and he spikes the ball, right? So if you're a Mets fan, your heart kind of sank. Like, if you think like me, I'm like, oh my God, what did he do? Did he trip? Did he hurt his ankle? Did he hurt his foot? Did he hurt his arm? Oh my God. Thankfully, wasn't hurt at all. Had a pretty good first inning. Braves didn't score anything. The Mets didn't score anything as well. The Mets started opening up their scoring in the second inning. Hayden Senger delivered an RBI single to left field. He drove in Brett Baty, and that started the Mets offense at 1-0. And Hayden Senger, I'm telling you, this is a guy, obviously, didn't have a great batting average, hasn't really produced much as of yet, but you need Hayden Senger to show you that he can produce, be a positive out there. You need to show that he can do something in a positive way, and the way he's swinging the bat, like, he is inspiring a little bit of confidence. I don't want to put the whole world at Francisco Alvarez, who's going to be coming back in about 10 days, who's going to be playing with a torn ligament in his thumb. Hayden Senger, if he could be decent. Luis Torrens, again, you need more than one catcher. So again, Hayden Senger is a very key guy. RBI today in the second inning. Good job. All right. So the Mets would score another run in that second inning. You had Juan Soto drawing a walk against Joey Wentz. That forced in another run. Soto, got to extend the lead at 2-0. At that point, Mets fans, again, a lot of Mets fans want Juan Soto to be aggressive. It's really not in Juan Soto's nature. He's a guy that really kind of seeks the walk. If you're a pitcher, you get frustrated throwing a guy like that, because if it's this much off the plate, Juan Soto is not going to swing. But when you have a pitcher who will dot the corners, you need Juan Soto to not be looking to walk. You need Juan Soto to be aggressive. And again, you saw both versions of Juan Soto, the patient Juan Soto and the aggressive Juan Soto. So again, Juan Soto, this game did well. So the Mets got off to that 2-0 lead. They go to the third inning. You got to keep scoring, and the Mets did that this game. In the third inning, you had a couple people get on base. Pete Alonso, Brett Baty, again, continuing to hit. But Cedric Mullins, another guy you want to get going. Your center fielder that you acquired at the deadline. You want to see this guy get going, a former two-time All-Star. He hit a rope. He tripled to center, or it was kind of to right. He hit it off the wall, and it bounced very, very violently towards Acuna. It passed Acuna, so it got away from him. It allowed Cedric Mullins to get to third. That allowed 2 runs to score, and the Mets would go up 4-0. So you get to the bottom of the inning, and at this point, you have Nolan McLean pretty much rolling. A man would get on base. Jurickson Profar got up, and he singled. It was like a grounder to the shortstop position, but they were playing in a bit of a shift, so it got through the hole, and that allowed a run to score, and the lead was cut to 4-1. Going to the fourth inning, the Mets continuing to pound, continuing to score. You have Starling Marte, sacrifice fly. Lindor was aboard. Lindor had singled before, and again, sac fly by Marte extends the lead. Mark Vientos received an inside fastball, and he roped a double. This was one of my favorite hits of the game. Again, Mark Vientos' double and Juan Soto's homer in the 7th. Go look at that Mark Vientos double. RBI double almost to the center field wall that extended the lead to 6-1. And again, you are continuing, if you're the Mets, to add. And if you're the Mets offense, you can never let up. You can't trust the bullpen. And you've seen the Mets surrender so many leads in the past 2 weeks. Tyrone Taylor, he also followed with an RBI double. Scoring Vientos, and the lead became 7-1. In the bottom of the 4th inning, Ronald Acuna would get 1 run back. He would homer. That made the lead 7-2. 5th and 6th innings, Nolan McLean pretty much sailed. No runs allowed. The Mets offense didn't score. The offense was, again, we go to the 7th inning. That's when Juan Soto launched a 2-run homer. Everybody's saying Juan Solo only hitting with solo shots. Juan Soto finally launched a 2-run bomb. He hit it down the left field line. Look at that. That was one of the more impressive homers. Not many guys in baseball kind of can hit like that. It was Juan's 32nd homer of the year to left field, and that scored Lindor. That made it 9-2. And the Mets offense at this point was on a roll. And again, they continue to be on a roll, because when we went to the 8th inning, again, you have Mr. Hayden Senger. Very important. Again, get this guy hot. Hayden Senger launches a 2-run single. Baty and Mullins scored. That pushed the lead to 11-2. Folks, are we having enough offense yet? Do we have enough? Well, things got close. Juan Soto, the next batter, he was a couple batters later. He added another RBI. The Mets took a lead of 12-2. That was Juan Soto's 4th RBI of the night. It's a great night by Juan. Okay, so things got really, really, really interesting. The Braves I would say the Braves didn't give up. And the Braves know that they kind of have, in the minds of the Mets, the Braves are, this year they're not good, but they've been a very big nuisance, So the Braves know that they have that little bit of a mental edge. The Mets have to prove, and I think this weekend is perfect because this can jumpstart their stretch run. They have to sweep. And I would love the Mets to sweep, have a great series, and just basically get over the hump. Get over the hump against Atlanta, because Atlanta is really a shell of what they were, especially when you compare them to the past. So you got the eighth inning. The Mets are up by almost double digits, but the Braves again didn't give up. So starting the eighth inning, most Mets fans I would hope would be pretty confident. But again, okay, so let's see what happens. You have Reed Garrett coming in after a beautiful performance by Nolan McLean. First batter up, Mr. Nacho Alvarez. I mean, this guy Nacho Alvarez already in a very short time has been a very big annoying player. He doubles on a line drive to left field. Then you have Vidal Burhan. He grounds out, so you got one out, one man on. Jurickson Profar, he singles on a ground ball to Pete. Nacho Alvarez scores. It is 12-3, and you're still feeling good. Next batter up, Matt Olson grounds out, and that made it 2 outs. Next batter, Ronald Acuna singles. That brings in another run, making it 12-4. Michael Harris, next batter, would strike out. So the Braves ended up getting 2 runs in the 8th inning. And again, the Mets are still blowing out the Braves. It is 12-4. So what do you do? What do you do if you're Carlos Mendoza? Well, at this point, you want to get Ryan Helsley in the game, get the guy some confidence. The Mets have a huge lead. This guy could go out there, be aggressive, let his stuff work. He's got good stuff, or had good stuff. So, this game was supposed to be very good for a guy like Ryan Helsley, but it turned out to be not good. First batter up, Marcell Ozuna is at the plate. And if you're Ryan Helsley, the worst thing you can do is walking. That is the worst thing you can do in a 12-4 affair. I don't even care if he laid it in the middle of the plate and he allowed a homer. The worst thing you could do is walk Marcell Ozuna. So next guy up, you have Drake Baldwin flying out to Cedric Mullins. So you got 1 out, 1 man on. Now Ozzie Albies up to the plate, and Ozzie Albies doubles in on a pitch basically right down the middle. He hits it to the Juan Soto. Marcell Ozuna goes to third base. Nacho Alvarez is up, and Nacho Alvarez, again, he's been trouble in the past, but Helsley gets him to fly out to Tyrone Taylor. So as of right now, you allow a walk and a double, but nobody scores. So if he could just get the next guy out, all right, it's a decent inning. But no, Vidal Burhan singles on a line drive to left. Marcell Ozuna scores, and now it is 12-5. And I'm thinking, just limit the damage. Not a great 9th inning, limit the damage. But no, Jurickson Profar doubles on a sharp line drive. And again, these hits were hard. Ozzie Albies scores, Vidal Burhan scores, and now it's a 12-7 game. Now, if you're a Mets fan, you are beginning to sweat. You are beginning to think back to how many runs. Last time I think Atlanta scored 9 runs in an inning. The Mets gave up a 6-run lead. So you're getting a little nervous. You are getting a little nervous. Luckily, next batter up, Matt Olson grounds out softly to pitcher Ryan Helsley. That ended up ending the game, but not good. The bullpen came in for 2 innings, folks. 2 innings. The Mets were up by almost double digits, and they allowed 5 runs in 2 innings. 5 runs in 2 innings. And then one would say, well, it's just garbage time. Well, folks, we used 2 of our top echelon pitchers. We used 2 of our guys, Reed Garrett and Ryan Helsley, 2 guys who were supposed to be in the circle of trust. So it's not like, oh, we used a Ryan Stanek. It's not like we use a position player. No, 5 runs surrendered in 2 innings using high leverage pitchers. So, that was the downside. What's up, Ricardo? Gonna have to put a starter in the bullpen because some of these guys just aren't cutting it. I mean, you know what? I would agree with you. We spoke about it before. Like right now, in the circle of trust in the bullpen, who do you have? You have probably, I mean, not probably. You have Edwin Diaz and you have Gregory Soto. Those are the only 2 guys right now. Somebody also mentioned Brooks Raley, but in my circle of trust, I have 2 guys. That means, obviously, with our starters who can't get far into games, you're going to have a big problems because you're going to have a lot of innings that you need bullpen guys to be reliable. So what do? Again, Tyler McGill comes back. He's an extra arm. Brandon Sproat comes up. Jonathan comes up. So you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to be ultra creative because you need talented arms out there, talented arms that you are confident in. Confident. Ryan Helsley, at this point right now, seems to have lost his confidence. And he thinks that just throwing 102, 103 mile per hour fastball in the middle of the plate is going to be effective. But it's not going to be effective because at this level, they're all professionals. So they're going to be able to put bat on ball if the ball is in the middle of the plate. I would DFA Stanek, send Garrett down. You know what? It's obviously if you make a move, there has to be a corresponding move, right? If you bring up a Brandon Sproat, you have a limited amount of people on the roster, so you would have to make space. So those are 2 moves that kind of make sense. It kind of makes sense. DFAing Stanek, I think the writing has been on the wall for quite some time. And even though the writing has been on the wall, Stanek hasn't said, hey, I'm proving I'm worth being here. No, he's actually proving that, DFAing him is going to be inevitable. And Reed Garrett, although having a good year, is the guy's arm tired? I mean, he just seems to have lost that he seems to have lost what he had going for him the last couple months. But those moves are definitely something that makes sense. What's up, Will? Will, you've been saying the season is over. This is not the type of live stream to start talking about the season being over. You just had Nolan McLean pitch a very dominating game. You had the offense explode for 12 runs. I know, you've been saying this for weeks and weeks. And I got to give you credit. You've been right. But just one day, and, I showed you the Mets meter. It's a 4 today. It's a 4. So we're not in the positive territory. We're not over 5, but we're 4 out of 10. We got a lot of work to do. But again, today gave you a tiny bit of hope. But what will give you more hope is the math. The math will give you more hope. The fact is, there's only one team that's trying to chase down the Mets, the Cincinnati Reds. And the Cincinnati Reds lost today. And the Cincinnati Reds are not a perfect team. So you got 6 teams making the playoffs. Those 6 teams making the playoffs, right now the Mets are in the 6th position. Cincinnati Red, they would be the 7th best team. Then after that, you got a bunch of other teams clumped up 3 and 4 games back. But those teams right now, they haven't been positioning themselves to be able to compete. The Cardinals of the world, the D-backs, the Giants, not worried about those guys. There's only one team, the Reds. And that team, the Reds, despite being very exciting, despite playing very well, the Reds have holes. They have holes in that team as well. And the Mets will be playing the Reds very shortly. So hopefully the Mets can expand the lead. And that's why it's hard to give up on a season where mathematically you stand a good chance to still make the playoffs despite not having a great August in the beginning of the month and despite losing a lot of games. It's just that there's just not a lot of competition behind the Reds. So, if the Reds don't play the behinds off, the Mets are in just virtually by the numbers. Now, everybody's trying to decide. I mean, I think it's kind of fairly obvious who would be the next guy you bring up. Now, the Mets have said that, and they said this several times, they're not looking to promote anybody who's having a bad season in the minors. If you're not producing at AAA, AA, what makes somebody think that you're going to produce in the majors? So Brandon Sproat was a guy who struggled early on, but as of late, since June 28th specifically, he has a 2.05 ERA. So his ERA is literally two since June 28th. So he's been doing really, really good. And even in his last his last 42 innings, he has a 2.13 ERA, 50 strikeouts, 12 walks, and that is in a total of 8 starts. So he continues to show really good promise. He's got great velocity. His fastball sits between 95 and 98 miles per hour. He's got a mid-80 sweeper. He's got a changeup 89 to 92 miles per hour. So he's got a pretty good repertoire as well. He's the 5th ranked prospect, according to, I think it's MLB.com. But it's a move that everybody's saying is going to happen within the next couple of days. You got scouts saying that it's about time. Sproat's ready. Sproat, I believe, is 24 years old. So it's not even like he's a 19 or 20-year-old. He's a guy that really kind of should be here if he's pitching well in the minors. And he is. He really is. They did say, to be fair, that Sproat was a tiny bit behind McLean in terms of his development if you compare him to McLean. But again, if you compare MLB players to McLean, you can say MLB players who have been here are behind McLean. Montaz behind McLean, Senger behind McLean, Manaea behind McLean. The whole rotation is behind McLean except for possibly David Peterson. So, that shouldn't be anything to throw water on a guy like Brandon Sproat. And what luck. So, I'm just looking how Cincinnati Reds, how they lost. So Cincinnati Reds lost on a walk-off in the 11th inning against Arizona. So that drops them to 1.5 games behind the Mets. I mean, we really needed that. We really needed that. Well, let me get to your positivity. If it was just one or two things wrong with the team, I can agree. But this team is in shambles all around. But I'm just gonna give you the same argument back. What are the other teams? Are the Reds that much better? The Reds, they're 1.5 games behind the Mets right now. And I think the Reds are 6 or 7 games over 500. The Reds never really got. I think the high water point is like 9 games over 500. So you're not talking about a team who's really a world beater. You're really not. So if you're really afraid of the Reds, then I understand. But like I'm not. I mean, I see a Reds team as a good up and coming team, but I also see them as a team that has holes. I see them as a team that is not ready right now. But you never know what happens if they become hot, raging hot. You just never know. But I think the Mets, they have a better pedigree. They did it last year. They got guys, all world talented guys on the offensive side, and now you're seeing this offense finally start to click in the last 2 to 3 weeks. This is the offense that the Mets fans, the Mets organization thought when we put this team together. Not put this team together, but obviously when you add a Juan Soto, bring a Pete Alonso back, you have Vientos having a great year last year. Unfortunately, Alvarez is not here, but Brett Baty finally coming into his zone. So the Mets literally have that offense that we kind of knew. Now Cedric Mullins is also a guy that you could see as of late. Cedric Mullins, he's providing some kind of offensive punch, and a big thing is the 21 hit attack. And again, I like how Nolan McLean has inspired just such great performance around him. I'm giving the kid a lot of credit, but the fact is the end of the lineup. So you had Lindor 1, Soto 2, Marte 3, Alonso 4, Vientos 5. So from the 6th on, so Baty, Taylor, Mullins, Senger. So the 6 through 9 batters had 4 hits from Baty, 3 hits from Taylor, 3 hits from Mullins, and 2 from Senger. So 7, 10, 12 hits from your 6 through 9 batters. 12 hits. Bottom of the lineup, it's been a problem the whole year. But again, if you're getting that type of production from the bottom of your lineup, and it starts with Brett Baty, that's going to be pretty exciting. And also you had 6 ribbies from the bottom of the lineup as well. The bottom of the lineup, again, give them a lot of credit. And if you're getting on base, if you're getting hits, the bottom of the lineup, another good thing is that means you're setting up the top of the lineup. That's why a guy like Juan Soto batting 2 can have 4 RBIs. Don't forget who the manager of the Reds is. That counts for something. Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. Like, the guy's a World Series winner. I mean, you're 100% right. That does count for something. But also, too, like the manager can't be on the field. The manager can't, I mean, you can't compensate for holes on the team. The Mets have witnessed that as well. I mean, it is what it is. It really is what it is. The Reds have a very good, exciting team. They really do. They really do. And yes, they got great leadership. In fact, they have better leadership than the Mets. But the Mets have more talent. I think the Mets have more weapons, more resources. Um, you know, but we're gonna see. It's gonna be a fun stretch run. I'm just looking at Terry Francona's career. Um, So he started off as a manager in Philly. First 4 years of his career, not so great. Not, winning percentage horrible. 68 and 94 in 1997, 75 and 87 in 1998. So he started off his first 4 years not great. But then when he took over the Red Sox in '04, when he won that championship, they were 98 and 64. From then on, and then even in 2017, Cleveland Indians 102 and 60. I mean, this guy has been an insane winner, He's only had 2 losing seasons, so 2 seasons under 500 since 2004. So that's almost 20 seasons. Only 2 of them that were under 500. One of them in 2023, the Guardians were 76 and 86, and the other one, it was barely under 500. That was in 2021, and the Guardians were 80 and 82. So, I'm not even going to count that one. So only one real season when he was under 500. So, that's a really good point. He's going to get more out of less and stretch the best out of that team, that Cincinnati team, as possible. I mean, like Ellie De La Cruz. Ellie De La Cruz, he's got a 3.4 wins above replacement. He's got 19 home runs, 76 RBIs, 273 batting average, 31 stolen bases. A couple years ago when he was a rookie, I remember going crazy trying to get all of his rookie cards. But besides him, I'm looking at the rest of the team. The Mets clearly have the Mets clearly have like more firepower on the offensive end, clearly than the Reds. It's not even close. In my opinion, it's not even close. Then when you look at their pitching, they got decent pitchers. They got Andrew Abbott, young pitcher. He's got a 5.2 wins above replacement, 8-3, 2.28 ERA. Kid's having a great year. Hunter Green having a great year, 5-3 with a 2.63. But then after that, Nick Lodolo too. I forgot he's there, 8-6 with a 3.05. So they got 3 good pitchers. Nick Martinez not having a great year. Brady Singer not having a great year. Chase Burns not having a great year. And then you compare to us. Now Nolan McLean, you keep him in as one of our top 3 pitchers. Obviously, you got David Peterson. And it's just so funny because, our top 2 pitchers were supposed to be Sean Manaea and Kodai Senga. Now, I have, in my opinion, but if I compare Senga to Manaea, I have a lot less confidence in a guy like Sean Manaea. The stuff right now is just not playing up. It looks so damn hittable, especially when you get to the second and third time around the lineup. And then again, you heard my live comments the other day. The fact that Sean Manaea has no clue what the hell's going wrong. And, his excuses that he gave 2 games ago are completely different than the excuses today. Sean Manaea, I'm very worried about that guy. The one silver lining to this season, I think Baty may have finally figured things out. Yeah, I mean, Baty is looking. In fact, I actually had an article about one scout who was trying to determine what changed in Baty's game? Because Baty, is he hitting the ball harder? Is his exit velocity gone up? Is his hard hit contact gone up? Everything's like virtually the same, but you see the results. The results are just night and day, night and day. I mean, I noticed that his leg kick looks a little more pronounced. Picking up the right leg, his timing looks a little better. His balance looks a lot better to me as well. But also too, I think the biggest thing is his confidence. His confidence. He's never had success at the major league level. In fact, everybody said when he goes back down to AAA, he dominates. He has close to 900 OPS. Then you bring him up to the minors, and he just doesn't produce. They were saying he's a quadruple A player. But again, I think he was a guy that had the talent. He just didn't have the confidence. Now you see a talented kid finally get his confidence, finally see success, and finally putting everything together. He knows that it's his job to lose. That's also another thing. In a guy like Brett Baty's mind, where he's been demoted, where he's had situations that weren't the best or most optimal, but now he knows I've tasted success. They see what I can do. This is my job to lose. It's Brett Baty's job. What's up, Jason? Absolutely, absolutely. And I say it. I'm going to continue to say it. You got the McLeaniacs out there and the Nolan McLean fans. 20% of the rotation now. Finally, we can pencil in and have confidence. 20% of the rotation going to the future looks to be really, really filled with a talented kid. And again, it's not only the talent on the field. You see the whole, package with this kid. His presence, his mound presence, his demeanor, his makeup. This kid is well beyond his years. And even like he's so damn calm. He's so damn calm. He looks a lot older than 24 too, but he is 24. But it's just he's very mature kid. I think it's helping him out tremendously, with his performance and the athleticism. That's another thing you heard with McLean. The kid is ultra athletic. He was a two-way player, didn't hit as well last year. So the coaches said, "Hey, Nolan, you got to focus on one. You're hitting a $170, but you're throwing 98 miles per hour, and your stuff is off the chart. I'd focus on pitching." Ever since he made that decision last year to kind of ramp it up and focus on his craft, his pitching, he just got even that much better. In fact, if he wasn't a two-way player, I always believed he probably would have been here earlier because he wasted a lot of time trying to improve his hitting. What's up, folks? Just a quick reminder. It's 3:15 in the morning. If you can help me out, do me a favor, hit the like button. Every single video, we're trying to have new goals. Every video, I want to make the goal around 100 likes. I'm not monetizing these videos. There should be no ads. Just trying to grow the channel, trying to grow with you. So, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And again, hit the like button because that helps the channel grow. And again, I appreciate everybody in advance. I really do. The play he made last Saturday was an awesome double play. I mean, if you compare that to what was the next best play from a pitcher? I mean, like if I was like thinking you probably got to go to like a Bartolo Colon when he used to make these flashy plays, the glove play. I was trying to think like which other play from the mound was, like that. I can't think of it. I just really can't think of it. But yeah, that was an amazing highlight play in a very pressure-packed moment. It's not only that he made the play, got the double play, it was that he needed that double play. In pressure, he made that awesome, amazing play. All right, so we got to focus on the future right now. We got to focus on the future. Tomorrow, the Mets, we have Clay Holmes on the mound. And I'm going to tell you how the rotation looks like it's stacked out. So you got Clay Holmes tomorrow facing Cal Quantrill. Cal Quantrill for the Braves has not pitched well, folks. Not pitched well. So another opportunity, golden opportunity to keep this offense hot. Again, the Reds lost, so the lead is 1.5 games on the Reds. But again, I want to start winning, and I want to start these streaks. So we got to start. Offense stays hot against Cal Quantrill. Clay Holmes, it would be nice to get 6 innings from Clay Holmes. I know that's asking a lot, but again, if the offense supports the pitching, we'll be fine. Cal Quantrill is nothing to fear. He's a guy that we should score another 10 runs off of. Then you got David Peterson on Sunday. Again, a matchup favoring the Mets, facing Bryce Elder of the Braves. Bryce Elder is 5-9, 6.29 ERA. Another guy not having a good season, not having a good pitching performance. So this is the perfect weekend to slay the demons, beat the Braves, slay your, I don't want to say rival, but slay the team that has always had that mental edge, right? And then we can use this as a great jump-off point, a momentum start going into the Phillies series. Then you have Kodai Senga, and I believe Kodai Senga is slotted to start the Phillies series on Monday. So again, you take this series, you go to Philly. The Mets have traditionally played well against the Phillies, and let's see if we can cut into that lead. I'm still not giving up the division. I know a lot of people are saying let's focus on the wild card, but I will never give up on the division unless we are mathematically eliminated. What's up, Goomba? You got a good one here. McLean is a beast. Wish he came up 5 weeks ago with Sproat side by side. Maybe we'd still be in first place or a lot closer. Pisses me off seeing how good they are, but we had pen games and bad starting pitching. This has been like I would say this has been probably the number one ask from Mets fans. Why didn't he come up sooner? And I think even Nolan McLean, I think he was trying to be a team guy. He says that, in the last 2 months that he feels he was developed much more. I kind of think that Nolan is just trying to support the team's decision. That's fine. That is your employer. You don't want to make them feel bad. You don't want to say, yeah, why didn't they bring me up 2 months ago? I could have dominated up here. So I understand why Nolan would say that. But the Mets, they haven't really given a good answer. They just say, it's part of our plan. It's part of his development. But I 100% agree with you. If this kid is that good, I mean, you compare him to MLB players, and he is heads and shoulders better than some. And, if you say which MLB players, we'll compare him to the Mets players. Sean Manaea producing much better than him, producing much better than Holmes, going much deeper than all of the Mets players except for David Peterson. So he is doing things that no other Met has done. I don't think any Met went 7 innings and allowed 0 walks. So this kid is being elite right now. He's showing that he can be elite. So the fact that they waited, maybe if they brought him 6 weeks ago, maybe he, would be really, really good and not elite, but really, really good. That still would have been heads and shoulders better than the pitching crap that we saw during those losing streaks. So I 100% agree with you. And so far, we've heard no legitimate excuses. And Sproat, too. Sproat right now has been dominating since June 28th. The kid has a 2.07 ERA in the last 2 months. The kid in the last 8 starts, has been completely lights out. So I don't understand why he's not up here right now, especially when you've seen and you've observed how Nolan McLean has completely inspired the rest of the team. So it's really questionable. It's really questionable. But again, you can question so many things, so many decisions the Mets have made in the last, the last 2 months. Service time, plain and simple. But I think it doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter. I mean, they can bring them up, and the service time won't be affected. It just really won't be effective. What's up, Chris? I don't understand why the Mets aren't calling up Sproat and Tong. Isn't this about winning a championship? For all we know, the Mets will never be in this position again. So call them up. Chris, I completely agree with you, because what do you do right now? You want to make sure that the Mets, as a collective unit, have the best talent that they can assemble, right? And again, we saw that they had a gem, Nolan McLean, sitting in AAA, toiling in AAA for the last couple months. So you didn't assemble the best talent if you have Nolan McLean not on the MLB team. So you saw the Mets fail to bring that kid up earlier. I think he would have been fine if you brought him in a month ago or 6 weeks ago. The kid would have been fine. He is showing that he is well beyond his years in maturity. He is well beyond his years in terms of talent stuff. The kid's got 6 pitches. He's got 2 or 3 of the nastiest pitches I've seen. So the fastball's nasty. Obviously he's got so many pitches: the curve, the slider, the cutter. It just makes no sense. And again, all right, you know what? The Mets could say, "Oh, I made a mistake." They could think in the back of their head, maybe they made a mistake. They should have brought McLean up. He's talented. He's successful. He's inspiring everybody. But why aren't you bringing in Sproat right away? Or why aren't you bringing up Tong? Especially Sproat, because Sproat's been at AAA. The Mets seem to be sticking to a plan. All right, you're not going to get promoted from AA to AAA unless you're dominating at AA. All right, Jonah Tong, AA dominant. Sproat was AA dominant. Now you bring him at AAA. Sproat struggled in AAA last year, so that's why they continue to keep him. But this year now, Sproat has been dominating. So it really kind of makes no sense to me. And then when you compare him to what the Mets have, the Mets don't have good options. Sean Manaea is throwing batting practice. Kodai Senga is kind of showing you he's getting tired. Clay Holmes, he's giving you 4 innings at this point, and then he's throwing batting practice. So the Mets need legitimate options, need arm talent. They have arm talent. Why aren't they up? It's a good question. And then when you're like, the goal is to win a World Series, you're spending $350 million in payroll. That should be meaning that you should move heaven and earth to win a World Series. Good question. Good questions, Chris. These are the questions I ask myself when I go to bed. And when I wake up, I'm like, am I going to turn on my phone? Am I going to see that the Mets DFA'd Ryan Stanek? Am I going to see that they called up Sproat? I'm actually shocked right now. I'm shocked that Sproat is not officially up here. I'm really shocked. And Chris, you're right. For all we know, the Mets will have the 3 best starting pitchers in the sport down the stretch. I don't understand why they are being so patient. Well, I think I know some of it. Some of it is you just gave Sean Manaea 3 years, $75 million. Sean Manaea was hurt the first couple months, they're still trying to say you're building him up, but I can't keep giving up games with Sean Manaea. I can't. Sean Manaea, I just really can't. So that's one spot, right? Another spot, you got Kodai Senga. The Mets have always said for them to make a deep run, they need Kodai Senga to be effective. But Kodai Senga looks different this year, folks. If you look at his stuff and you compare his stuff to last year, it's different. The fastball, if you compare the fastball, it lost 2 miles per hour from last year. 2 miles per hour on velo. So again, you hear Carlos Mendoza saying Kodai Senga is showing good velocity. The velocity's there. Yeah, the velocity's there, but it's not as good as it was last year. And when he had more of a velocity throwing in the mid to upper 90s, that made the ghost fork look that much more devastating. So now, in certain counts, hitters can just sit on the ghost fork. I think Kodai Senga is, I would say he's tiring out. He only threw 5 innings last year. He threw 5 innings, and now he's up over 100. But that's also another reason why don't the Mets go to a 6-man rotation? Why aren't the Mets, having a guy like Sproat be that 6th starter so you can get Kodai Senga more rest between starts so that his stuff may be a bit more like it was last year, or at least in the beginning of the season. Master, what's up? Master of Coin. Yeah, Chris, I see what you wrote. Yeah, no, we're doing these midnight editions now, midnight lives. Honestly, I always go to bed late. This is my time where I kind of research, go from article to article, but I think it's more fun to do these live streams. So if most of you subscribe, I know most of you subscribe. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you don't have the alert or notification on, hit that, because we're going to be doing a lot more lives at this time. It's good therapy too. Yesterday I came on. I was so upset. The Mets, lost the series to the Nationals, and we got blown out that last game. It was such an upsetting series. So I had to come on here and vent. By the end of the live stream, I felt so much better. So, I got to thank everybody here for hanging out. But yeah, so again, thank you to everybody. I appreciate it. I know it's late. It's 3:30 in the morning. Where do I live? I'm in Florida. But I grew up in Queens my entire life. I just moved to Florida last year. What's up, Terry? Just saying that McLean reminds me of DeGrom, and I know it's only 2 games. I remember going to a bunch of games in 2014. I remember being so, excited about this guy, Jacob DeGrom. And Jacob, I remember he wasn't really I don't remember him being a highly touted guy. I remember him just blowing out expectations, but I remember his fastball. His fastball, obviously, the one up in the zone, kind of seemed like it had that rise on it. Really kind of kept hitters off balance. He had 144 strikeouts in 140 innings. McLean, literally, to me, he seems so much more advanced. DeGrom came up when he was 26. McLean is 24. DeGrom, I believe, had like 3 or 4 pitches in his repertoire. You have McLean having 6 different pitches. McLean's throwing 97 miles per hour. I think DeGrom was averaging around 94 miles per hour when he was a rookie. And then the thing about DeGrom is as he grew and he developed, his velocity just started going higher and higher. Even though he got more and more nasty with the pitches, I think that put a lot of stress and strain on his arm. But, it's just the whole makeup with McLean. He's got the talent. He's got the stuff. He's got the pitch mix. But again, what's going to make this kid special is what's in between the ears. This game is so mental. Greg Maddux, I always go back to what Greg Maddux said. Hall of Famer, very successful guy. Greg Maddux wasn't a guy who throws 100 miles per hour. Greg Maddux was a guy who used to say 60% of the game is mental. So I practice on my mental game 60% of the time. And, it just seemed like this kid's mentality, between the ears is just so much more advanced. So much more advanced. What's up? Let's go Mets, Stefan. Yeah, I mean, it's we're on a one-game winning streak. But like again, we got to use this series. We got to use this series against the Braves. This is our jumping off point. This is what's going to get us into the Philly series. Let's get on a 3-game win streak. Let's get some good positive momentum. Let's set up the rotation right. I mean, again, you have Holmes tomorrow. You have let me make sure I'm doing. Yeah, I believe it's Holmes tomorrow. You got Peterson on Sunday, and you got Senger on Monday. I want to see Senger pitch. I want to see him have a good performance. I really, really do. But I kind of lost hope on Manaea. I just kind of see him as just really being in the wrong role right now. If you want to put him in the bullpen, he just doesn't seem like he's a guy that can get through the second and the third part of the order. All right, folks. I apologize. I'm getting a little tired, so I'm gonna call it quits. But again, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Hit the like button if you can, and set those notifications because we're gonna be doing much more live streams heading down the stretch and into the off season. We got a lot of fun to come. And again, my Mets meter grade, how the Mets are doing, the state of the Mets. They got a 4 right now, and in my opinion, they're on a 1-game winning streak, and they would be much, much lower after a series loss to the Nationals, but they just had such a dynamic win today. You had a starter, really, Nolan McLean, kind of looking like he could be a future ace, and you had the offense have a 21-hit barrage from Soto to Lindor to Brett Baty to Tyrone Taylor to Mullins. I mean, up and down the lineup, Hayden Senger, everybody got into the action. So that's why this game was extremely fun, inspiring. And at the end of the day, you did it against the Atlanta Braves, the foe who's been your mental block for the longest time. So again, let's take advantage of the Braves state. They're crappy right now. They're a crappy team. We're going to be going up against 2 crappy pitchers on Saturday and Sunday. So let's continue have the offense going and, getting our pitchers going against the Atlanta Braves. That's also another benefit as well. So folks, I want everybody to have a good night. Continue to thank you guys. You guys are the best. I'm going to talk to everybody very, very soon. Have a great night. And let's go Mets.